Good morning here, Lagos. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program. I am Nifabio Guntoy, and we are back at the National Assembly this morning reviewing some of the latest developments from there, as well as the operations in the outgone year. Recall that last year, the National Assistant General Secretary of the NLC, Christopher Onyeka, in an interview said the Congress will embark on another strike over the inability of government to provide palliatives to the masses. But gave the National Assembly 70 billion naira, with each member receiving 100 million naira each. The House later on denied that claim through its spokesperson, Akin Rotimi, denying that submission and saying that it's malicious, untrue, that its members got 100 million naira each. But last week, Thursday, a special assistant to the president was quoted to have confirmed on its official X handle the distribution of palliative items worth 200 million naira to senators and palliative items worth 100 million naira to House of Representatives members. Let's try to track the palliatives this morning and find out what's happening. Particularly when you hear palliative, you know, everyone's ears comes up. Dr. Jide Johnson is chief lecturer at the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. We're also expecting a member of the House of Representatives to join us in the course of the conversation. Dr. Johnson, good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to our viewers all over the world. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Interesting developments. You know, some have said that last year, the simple question was, when you budget 70 billion naira to the National Assembly for new members, when they were expecting that, lawmakers should just tell us how they intend to spend that money and not allow NLC to fill in the gap, because what they are saying is what NLC said was wrong. Do you think we require some more transparency in that regard on the part of the legislature?
I think what we should call for is total overhaul of the system, in the sense that you have multiplicity of functions being performed by agencies of government, even organs of government. One of the questions you need to ask is, what is the core function of the legislature? What is the core function of the executive? What is the core function of the judiciary? A situation whereby you see the legislature engaging in construction of roads themselves, termed constitutional projects. That's a core executive function.
Indeed.
You see legislature involves in building of schools and the rest of it, then you begin to wonder what will be the role of the executive in. So when we have dual roles or multiplicity of roles being performed by different agencies of government, you have the type of questions a lot of people have asked with respect to the disbursement of funds, with respect to allocation of funds, with respect to missing of funds, and with respect to misappropriation of funds, because you can't see a legislature in Great Britain, for example, saying that is involved in a constituency project. Or you see a lawmaker, United States Congress, being involved in a constituency project, as in money being allocated.
You know, it's either here or there. Because recently, the Speaker of the House of Reps was talking about the issue of constituency projects. We saw what Femi Gbajabiamila did in Lagos, 480-bed space at the University of Lagos, a study center at the National Open University, a police station in Surulere, Randu Avenue, mini stadium. These were landmark projects. And then we heard Tajuddin Abbas say that lawmakers should maximize the essence of legislative interventions through constituency projects. When you begin to compare Nigeria with the UK, you also want to bear in mind the infrastructural deficit, because for the people in this constituents, they are happy, aren't they?
Now, if you elect me to go into the legislature, what I need to do is to draw projects from the budget into my constituency, not to be personally involved in the award of the contracts, in the execution of the contracts. Now, you can use my influence as a legislature to attract projects to my constituency. Okay, you know what? Government wants to establish 20 federal universities, 20 federal teaching hospitals,
Indeed.
100 health centers. You have 360 House of Rep members. Now, in the course of the negotiation, as member of the House of Rep, hypothetically, what I would do is at least I get one to my constituency. And that, I think that should be the approach. Otherwise, the kind of money we see being reported on the pages of newspaper, allegedly being spent on project and being misappropriated, because until there's a proper investigation and prosecution. We cannot accuse anybody of committing a crime. But from what we have seen, and if these things are proven right, beyond the legislature, you go to every ministry, department, and agency of government, you will see that once you just throw a little searchlight into what is done in the secret, you put your hand on your head and wonder, why is Nigeria still surviving?
You know, the issue with this is that anytime you talk about palliatives, there is always a can of worm to be opened. You see what's happening with the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. You know, the first issue was some 37 billion naira and how they were appropriated and spent in the past 6 years. But now we're seeing certain memos of, you know, the minister allegedly asking that monies be sent to some personal accounts and all of that. What do you think the challenge really is here? The president, for instance, has ordered probe, you know, into that particular ministry. It's directed a thorough and comprehensive investigation to be conducted on the alleged misappropriation of public funds by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation to ascertain the accuracy and validity of the report. Some would say it's perhaps too early in the day, but it's good news that issues like this are also coming up in the lifespan of this administration. Do you agree?
Well, I've always said that you can't eliminate poverty. It's absolutely impossible. Even from religious point of view, said the poor you always have with you. I'm always of this opinion that any poverty alleviation program is a program to siphon public fund. One, let's take a history, a cursory look at the history. Now, Obasanjo came with PAP. Remember, Poverty Alleviation Program. It's called, the acronym is PAP. But in local parlance, when somebody is hungry, you give that person PAP. Can it solve his hunger problem? PAP can never solve your hunger problem, because the moment you go and urinate, you lose that particular.
Well, that's the idea of palliatives. That's just to provide some temporary
I'm just
relief.
giving you over the last 24 years. Now even 25 now. That's a quarter of a century. Then Obasanjo moved to NAPEP, under him, which was headed by Agol. I can't remember his first name now. NAPEP. That's when they brought this tricycle, which was named NAPEP, and which was distributed across the length and breadth of Nigeria to create employment opportunity. If we really want to solve this problem of misappropriation of funds, unjustifiable allocation of funds, and misappropriation of funds on poverty alleviation, I think we should eradicate this ministry. It's very important. I would go the approach of, you know what the newly sworn-in president of Argentina, you know what he did with reduction of government agencies and government ministries. On the Buhari's administration, there was nothing like Ministry of Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation Ministry. There was nothing like that. It was under Ministry of Women Affairs, because it is believed that if you take care of women, you have taken care of the children, and you have taken care of the society, because the bulk of the people in the society are women, particularly in the rural areas. If you look at the history of the palliative programs we have done, the money actually don't even get to the poor. It makes the richer become richer and the poorer become. Because if you look at the funds that have been allocated, at least nothing less than 100 million Nigerians should have been taken out of the poverty line. But every year they release the statistics of people living below the poverty line. It keeps to be on the increase. Yet government is an inverse relationship. The money we are spending to eradicate poverty is increasing, and the people living below poverty line is also.
There are some who would say that your recommendation is very drastic. And the issue with drastic decisions like this is that it takes time. The man in Argentina is saying that it will take 15 years before you start seeing the impact of the decision this government is taking. Nigerians don't have that long. And at a time where the subsidy on fuel has just been removed, there's the unification of foreign exchange, the economy is biting hard on the pockets of Nigerians. They want some palliatives, which makes sense to that extent. We've also seen, under this same minister, we've seen videos of those who have received these monies and who have thanked the president and who are grateful for the intervention. Would you say that it hasn't had any impact at all on the bulk of the masses?
What happened to the palliative during COVID? What happened to the palliative under Jonathan? I've also spoken about the palliative under Obasanjo administration. If you have done a program for 25 years and you are not getting good result from the program, rather than that program solving your problem, you keep feeding the nest of people that you are giving responsibility to. The president should be bold enough, just like he was bold enough in removing the subsidy and then unify exchange rate. And that's the approach, because otherwise, every other thing, even under that ministry, should be under Ministry of Women Affairs, Youth and Women Affairs. That should go under that. You recall that the first attempt by government at any level to address this issue started with Miriam Babangida when she started Better Life for What? Better Life for Rural Women. Now, if you look at the money we've invested from Miriam Babangida to date on this pet project about eradicating poverty and the rest of it, I'm sure if indeed those money were fully and fairly distributed, I'm telling you, we would have a lot of what we have.
So, is it that it's impossible to take out the corruption or the system so that, the bulk of those who need this money will benefit from it? For instance, we're just hearing news just in about the former Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, has just arrived at the headquarters of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to honor invitation by the Anti-Graft Agency. Her visit to the commission is to also clarify, the allegations about the 37 billion naira that is now being questioned about how that money was spent in the past 6 years. Is it possible that we create systems that make it impossible? For instance, what's happening right now mirrors to an extent some level of transparency. The law says you cannot send monies to personal account. The same law also, sees ahead, say that the moment you do that, there is a fraudulent intention that backs it up. So isn't that the essence of the laws, that if something wrong happens, we pick it up and then we move on?
That's why EFCC has failed in its core mandate. One of the reasons that led to the establishment of EFCC was to address this particular problem we are talking about: transparency in government, due diligence and compliance with rules and regulations with respect to financial discipline and financial intelligence. And you recall that Obasanjo was going all over the world asking for debt. What was EFCC doing when she was the minister? Were there no flags to be raised? For example, if you and I, if $1 million or $500,000 should move into my account, your account, before you know it, your account will be flagged. Now you are seeing money leaving government account going to private account.
So why did it take 6 years?
Why did it take 6 years before
she's invited?
Before she's invited. Why? No, even the one we are talking about, under 6 months, less than 6 months that the ministers were sworn in, and then you are seeing money moving from government account to private account. What was EFCC doing with respect to that? They are meant to prevent it. We are not after prosecution. What we want is to prevent that from happening. Yeah. Now, the best way to deal with crime is crime prevention, not prosecution, because you still spend more money on prosecution. You spend less money on prevention. You release the flag. Who are those that are complicit? The banks. Which bank? What sanction are imposed on the banks? Who is the accounting officer? Who are those that are responsible? There are different layers of mechanism we have put in place to stop that from happening. Now you are talking about Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. What about other agencies of government? What about, you recall, the Accountant General of the Federation under Buhari's administration with respect to public? You wonder how it is easy for people to move government money. You will still think that we are in the era of Akinsuwo. Remember the famed governor of Kano State in the Second Republic that said you found government money inside government house. So it's funny that it's easier for people to move public fund into private account, and we thought that with the due process law, with the various rules and regulations, with single treasury, the single treasury account, DSA,
of the Code of Conduct Bureau on the show last Friday, and he mentioned categorically that the CCB had intel on the Emefiele had intel on the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs that all of these issues coming up this year are issues that they had intel on, but couldn't go further with it because of, some,
that's where the political,
some limitations within the system.
That's where the political relies, and that's where that's why some have argued that we need to depoliticize the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. And you need to depoliticize it, probably to separate the Attorney General office from that of Minister of Justice. That's where you need that. Now, once you get the intelligence, it comes about who gives the go-ahead for prosecution and who sits on, the running battle the former EFCC Chairman Bauer had with the former Attorney General of the Federation under Buhari administration. And we have also seen that the various running battle EFCC Chairman have had with, quote-unquote, let me put it, the cabal in the presidency with respect to whether to prosecute or not to prosecute political offenders. And I think that what the president can do that will help his administration is for him to allow the EFCC chairman to be independent of any sort of political control by the office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. And then we go.
It is perhaps why we've seen most of the EFCC chairman disgrace out of
Yeah, there's every one of them.
Yes. Let's take a short break and we'll be back with more. Stay with us, everyone. Don't go away.